Hey, this is Kim, coming to you live from GRAMMY Pro. The recording process for my latest album, Promise to Love, was different than all of its predecessors. I did a lot more pre-production on this album, more than I normally do. Usually I'll take the band into the studio and we'll just figure it out as we go along. This time I had a pretty definite idea of what each song was going to be like, you know, so it was almost seamless. I wasn't exhausted. I wasn't as spunt after making this album as I usually am. You know, it was a nice pace. It was great. I am about to embark on the second leg of the Forever Charlie tour with Charlie Wilson and Joe, and my preparation for the arena tour, you know, it all starts with the music, and we've been very fortunate to do a lot of performances in large venues. Although my preference would be an intimate setting, you know, we're able to scale up or scale down in order to meet whatever situation we're trying to perform in. And the music takes care of itself, you know. My focus is making sure that the integrity of the music is first and foremost, to make sure that the audience, that the listener has the best experience that they could possibly have. I would advise someone heading out on a tour like this for their very first time to rehearse, or to say practice, 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 you know, practice, practice, practice. And if you have an opportunity to to go into a rehearsal space, you know, a bigger space than, you know, for me, I'm in Detroit, I rehearse in my basement, you know, but when we get ready to go out on the road for a tour like this, we kind of like put the show up actually, and you know, use a bigger sound stage or a bigger venue or theater, rent that space so we can actually get the feel of what it's going to be like. We can actually, we may even invite people in to view the rehearsal, so we can, you know, kind of like get a gauge of performing these songs, some of which may be songs that we're performing for the first time actually in front of a live audience. The more preparation you have, the better. If you're a musician who's from Detroit, there's no way that you can escape being infected or effected by all of the great music that has happened there in the past, from Motown, you know, all the way up to, you know, Anita Baker, Eminem, Kid Rock is still in the city. I text Kid from every once in a while. You know, there's just a great history of music there, and you know, I always say Detroit is like, you know, we have, you know, the blue collar musicians. You know, these are people who, musicians who may not be on the cover of any magazine, but who are, you know, doing the gigs at the weddings, the bar mitzvahs, and the casinos, you know, the top 40 bands, which I was a proud member of a top 40 band before I got a deal with Motown. So a lot of respect for the city of Detroit. I think you can't help but be affected by the sound of the Motor City. My advice for an artist coming from a smaller market like Detroit would probably be the same advice I would give to any artist. You know, technology today allows us to be everywhere at the same time, instantaneously. You know, and I'm a firm believer that everything starts with the song. You know, creating a great song and exploiting that song, exploiting that music, exploiting your craft at any and all opportunities that you have. So however, you know, perform everywhere you can perform, sing everywhere you can sing, and play everywhere you can play. Discipline yourself in your craft and learn the business. You know, whether you're from a small town or whether you're, you know, in Los Angeles or New York or in Chicago. I think there's an advantage to being from a small town, you know, as opposed to being in one of the bigger cities where, you know, you're in this big pond of a lot of people trying to do the same thing. You know, you really can leave a stamp when you develop yourself locally. You know, you develop right where you are in your neighborhood. Those people are the most important people to you. You know, so you know, there may be an advantage to being from a small town. The R&B scene has, you know, I don't know that the scene has changed so much as the way that music is delivered and consumed. and depending on what demographic the listener and the artist is, you know, it can be different. The audience that I cater to is not a, although my downloads have increased year over year, it's not a downloading audience. You know, they prefer to have the physical copy of the record, or they prefer to stream. Whereas, you know, if you're a younger demographic, I'm trying not to slate myself as being old, you understand. If you're a younger demographic or millennial, you know, you listen to your music on your phone, you're more apt to download a single. So I think the music and the integrity of the music, I mean, you can argue both ways, but I don't think the creative aspect of the music has changed so much as how it's delivered and how it's consumed. I am a secular artist who brings my faith into my music. You know, my hope is that when people listen to my music, they hear a stream of spirituality, a thread of spirituality throughout all of my records, because my faith is my foundation. And I have a lot of a large listenership in the Christian community. Some of the most influential people in my life are ministers, in fact. You know, T.D. Jakes. I'm inspired by Joyce Meyer, Kenneth Copeland. I've listened to a lot over the years. And I really look at what I do as a ministry. You know, I'm a secular artist, and I like to, you know, my brothers and sisters in the traditional gospel arena. You know, I like to tell them they're working one side of the street, and I'm working the other side of the street. You know, we're all doing the same thing. We all are encouraging and inspiring people who, and from where I sit, people who may not necessarily go to church. They may not get it the traditional way, you know, so I can fill in the gap in that way. How can artists work with producers to get the best from themselves? I think you have to be open, and you have to be willing to be pushed beyond what your normal boundaries would be. I know that's what I would require for someone who I am producing. I have very high expectations, you know, and we work at a very high level, you know, trying to make the best possible record that we can possibly make. And the same demands that I put upon someone who I'm producing, I put upon myself when I'm producing myself, whether it's, you know, whether I'm playing keys or whether I'm doing my vocal. You have to be open, you have to be patient, and you have to want to, you know, perform and do whatever's necessary to get the highest possible result that you can in the studio. You know, a studio is a controlled environment theoretically, you know, so you should be able to leave there, you know, you should be able to stay there until you get it right.